Welcome back to another episode of the Draw Control Podcast. On today's episode, I am joined by a recent graduate of the William Smith Women's Lacrosse team, Liza Diffley. In her career, Liza won the NSCA All-American Strength and Conditioning Athlete of the Year award. She played a key role in defense that ranked ninth in the nation in scoring defense, had 27 ground balls and 14 turnovers, and logged a career high six ground balls and six caused turnovers against Clarkson in her senior year. Liza made it on the IWLCA academic honor roll and Liberty League academic all academic teams as well. Liza, welcome to the Draw Control podcast, and how's everything going?
Everything's great. I'm really happy to be here and excited to chat about lacrosse.
Well, I'm excited to have you on as well, and obviously it's pretty crazy to think about, but it's been a few months since you last graduated. So now that you've graduated, what have you been up to since then?
Yeah, since graduating in May, I'm currently living in Boston. I'm a first year graduate student at Boston University's entry-level Doctorate of Occupational Therapy program. And I'm actually currently living with a former teammate from William Smith. So everything's been really great. And I'm looking forward to catching up on my time at William Smith and watching them this season.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Is it weird sort of being at a different school, sort of a much different school because BU is more of a city campus compared to William and Smith?
Absolutely. Boston University is very different than William Smith. I haven't even stumbled across the lacrosse fields here yet. It's a very different experience being in a city, coming from Geneva, New York, but I'm enjoying having kind of a different lens of what college can be like. So.
Now, do you still plan on being involved with lacrosse in the near future, or are you officially kind of retired from the game at this point?
I would love to stay involved. My roommate Ellen and I had great intentions of joining a former college lacrosse league here in Boston, but it was a little crazy this semester, so we never got around to it. But I'd love to stay involved. I would consider myself an active person in general, so definitely adjusting to being out of the college athlete structure and schedule has been very different, but I would love to stay involved in some way.
Now, I want to sort of start off the podcast talking about the beginning of your lacrosse career and sort of working all the way up to where you are today. So, from the research I did on yourself, it says that you're from Old Saybrook, Connecticut. So, what was it like growing up there, and how did you start playing lacrosse?
Yeah. I actually grew up in Wallingford, Connecticut. I grew up on the campus of Choate Rosemary Hall. My dad worked in admissions there for several years. And so my family grew up on the campus, which was an amazing experience. My siblings and I would come home from school and go to dinner at the dining hall and get to go watch all the sports games on the weekend. And so it was a really incredible experience to grow up in that environment. And when I went to Choate for high school, my family moved to Old Saybrook. And so I became a boarding student at Choate. And so Old Saybrook's kind of become a second home to me. And so I never actually played lacrosse there. But I began lacrosse, I guess I played for a year in middle school, but I would really consider my start of lacrosse to be when I was in high school. In the prep school world, all students were required to be involved in either in athletics or some extracurricular activity after the school day. And I grew up being a hockey player, and that was it. So I didn't really have a fall or spring sport to be involved in. So I ended up joining the lacrosse team my freshman year of high school, and I played, or I guess I did strength and conditioning in the fall.
Yeah. And growing up, I'm assuming since you really only played starting in high school, did you like ever have a favorite player or team that you like to watch in lacrosse, or was it mostly just something that you like to play?
Yeah, I my family was not a lacrosse family. We grew up watching hockey, but I would say when I started playing lacrosse in high school, I very quickly got excited to start watching lacrosse at the college level. And one of my favorite players to watch, especially having started to play defense, was Emma Trenchard. She was actually also a prep school lacrosse player, and we overlapped for a few years before she went off to UNC. And so I remember as a sophomore in high school watching her play for UNC as a defenseman, and just getting to see her technique. And she would always have a top matchup. And it's very rare that you hear a defensive player's name over the live stream. But hers kept coming up. And so I knew that she was a player to watch, especially if I wanted to learn about defense.
I do have to ask, who was your favorite hockey team to watch growing up? Because being from Connecticut, it's either the Bruins, Rangers, Islanders. I don't know who to decide. So I'm just curious who it might have been.
Yeah, we're Bruins fans, and I actually am just a short walk to TD Garden, and we'll be going to the game tonight. So I never lost the love for hockey too, but definitely added lacrosse into that realm too.
Nice, nice. I'm a big Bruins fan as well. I don't know if you could see the background. I have a Patrice Bergeron poster, so
Oh yeah,
big fan, big fan. We'll
definitely.
see what they do this year though without him. I definitely miss watching him play.
I know it'll be different, that's for sure.
Well, have fun at the game tonight. That sounds like a lot of fun. Could be Marc-Andre Fleury's last game ever in Boston too. So
Oh, that's right. We're actually going for it's my brother's 18th birthday, so we've got a lot to celebrate tonight.
nice, nice. Well, getting back to your interview now. So like you mentioned before, college you played for your prep school at Choate. So just talk about your prep school lacrosse experience, what you took away from that time period, and what's like the best memory you have from your lacrosse experience when you look back on it now from your time at Choate.
Sure. I loved my lacrosse experience at Choate. I remember joining as a freshman in high school, and I joined because all my friends were joining. And there were some really incredible upperclassmen who I looked up to who were playing and knew that they were going off to play in college. And they made the experience of being on the team, even as someone who knew nothing about lacrosse, just really fun. And it was kind of a low stakes scenario. I never dreamed of playing lacrosse in college until the end of my high school career. And so I really just enjoyed being there and showing up to practice every day. Choate had a really amazing rivalry with Deerfield Academy. And so that was always something that I looked forward to. We would get really excited about. I remember we won while we played on their field my sophomore year, and that was one of my favorite games to play in high school. I would also say that one of my favorite things about the Choate program is how they celebrated their senior day. That was a new experience for me, but some of the predecessors and older girls on the team when I was a first year kind of set the precedent that celebrating our seniors was critical to the program. And so we had a lot of fun coming up with themes and making them feel really special on their last game at Choate. So that was definitely memorable.
And obviously, when you started playing lacrosse as a freshman, so sort of later on in your life, so how did your prep school experience with Cho help prepare you for college lacrosse with William and Smith?
Yeah, I would say in terms of how it prepared me, one of the biggest things that I took away from my high school experience was um, kind of the strength and conditioning aspect. There was a really amazing program at Cho called Total Athlete Conditioning. And I was a part of that for 3 of my fall semesters. And I think getting into that realm and learning how to train in the off season set me up for success going into my college experience. And then I would also say just the mentors that I had at Choate across all realms, whether that was lacrosse coaches, hockey coaches, um, dorm parents, they all helped me to kind of realize that I had this goal of playing in college. And I would say that they were huge factors in my transition to the college experience.
We'll talk about your recruiting process with William and Smith and what made you want to go there versus the schools you might have looked at.
Yeah, I actually first heard about Hobart and William Smith colleges through Ellen Arena, who I currently live with. She did a postgraduate year at Choate when I was a sophomore. And when she came to Choate, she had already committed to William Smith and was going off to play for them the following year. And so that was my first introduction to William Smith. She graduated, went off and started playing. And it was probably the end of my junior year of high school that I started to think that it might be possible to play in college. I was always considering playing ice hockey in college. And so I had started that recruiting process pretty early on. And so at the beginning of senior year of high school, I kind of had this epiphany that, maybe I could play both ice hockey and lacrosse, and that maybe that would be an option. And so because of kind of a late start to the recruiting process and all of that, I didn't end up applying until the second early decision deadline. But I had been to a play day at William Smith that fall and done an overnight with Ellen on campus. And really, the support that I felt from Coach Phillips was incredible. And I knew that having heard from Ellen's experience that they were headed in a really great direction. And so it was a really easy decision at that point.
And as a freshman, what was like the biggest adjustment you had to make to college lacrosse?
I would say probably everything's just faster and everyone's stronger. I think it's easy to forget that when you come in as a first year student, you're on the field with girls who've been playing at this level for several years. You're playing against seniors who've gone to league championships and to the NCAA tournament and know what that's like. And so to kind of just show up in college and make that adjustment can be difficult. I think we were really lucky. I know a lot of Division III women's programs don't have the opportunity to have a fall ball season, but we were lucky enough to have one. And so our head coach always used that as an opportunity to get our first years up to speed. And we always had a play day against a competitive team. And that was really our first introduction as first years to what the college game is like. And I think that was a really helpful stepping stone in adjusting to the level of play.
Now, your freshman season got canceled due to COVID. How'd you handle that challenge of having your season being canceled, especially when you're sort of starting off and trying to get your feet underwater? And how'd you also handle the challenge of the uncertainty that you were facing, not knowing when you were going to play again at that point?
Yeah, my first year was really difficult and unique. I was still playing ice hockey at that point at William Smith too. So I had done a fall ball season with William Smith lacrosse that fall, gone right into hockey season. And we were sent home the day that I was supposed to return to the lacrosse team after our hockey season had finished up. And so I hadn't really been with our team in several months. And so that was definitely a nerve-wracking experience to be sent home and not be familiar with what the day-to-day was like with the William Smith lacrosse team at that point. But I would say that our leadership on the team at that time, our coaching staff did a really incredible job of keeping us all motivated and keeping us all together. I remember they set up like workout groups that we would be involved in and had different challenges going on in terms of stick work and keeping in shape. So they did a really awesome job of making sure we still felt connected, even when we didn't know when we'd be back, and just trying to give us little goals that we could hold on to during that time.
Now, getting back to your sophomore year, one thing that you did was you won the Liberty League championship. But before we get to that question, I just want to ask what it was like playing in the Liberty League conference and just the competition that you guys faced each game.
Sure. The Liberty League Conference was really fun to be a part of. There were some really competitive teams, and I think our program had just begun to set this precedent of kind of climbing the ladder and being at the top of the league. I think when I got there as a first year, they had won the previous 2 or 3 Liberty League titles. And so we had really started to get the ball rolling in terms of our expectations as a program. But that being said, every game was competitive, especially at the college level. And so we had some really fun competition on the other end of the field.
Now, during your sophomore year, you won your first Liberty League championship. Talk about winning that for the first time and sort of what it meant to you.
Yeah. Our sophomore year was kind of still feeling the effects of COVID. And so the way the Liberty League organized the schedule was we were split in half. And so we played a series of doubleheader games against half of the Liberty League, while the other half played their doubleheaders in their circle. And so it was a very shortened schedule, and that was unusual for us. And so we had actually lost to Ithaca in our doubleheader against them in the regular season, having just beat them in the Liberty League championship the time prior. And so I remember that feeling walking off of their field in the regular season after losing to them, and our seniors just lighting a fire under us that that is not how we play. And so when we made it to the tournament, and were able to play against Ithaca in the finals, I remember just that competitive nature in all of us coming out. And I was actually running D midi in that game. And so in the final seconds, we had the ball. So I was actually off the field. And I got to storm the field with the rest of my teammates at the buzzer. So that was a really incredible experience. And it got us our bid to the NCAA tournament for the first time that I was there. And so it was a really special experience.
Yeah, and during that tournament run, you guys beat the number one team in the country at the time in Franklin and Marshall, before losing to St. John Fisher College. Overall, what'd you take away from your first tournament experience?
It was really special. I think any college athlete dreams of playing for an NCAA tournament title. And so to make that push forward and make the tournament was a really awesome experience. And then to play Franklin and Marshall, our second game in, was certainly intimidating, but also a really special experience for us as a program. Our head coach, Coach Phillips, won her national championship title as a coach for Franklin and Marshall. So she was really excited for us to be on that field and to have the chance to play against really high competition. And so it was kind of one of those things where you know going into it that they're the number one team in the country and you had nothing to lose. And we certainly played that way. And it was just a really fun game to be a part of.
Now, your team improved a lot from your sophomore year to your junior year, going from 10 wins to 18 wins. What would you say was the biggest reason why your team made that jump? And what was the key for your success, not only for your junior year, but for your senior year as well?
I would say one shift, especially after playing Franklin and Marshall and St. John Fisher my sophomore year, was we wanted to play top teams, and we wanted to play against the best competition we could because we knew that would set ourselves up for success. And so I remember my junior year, our coaching staff put together a really strong schedule for us prior to league play. And one of those included going down to Florida and playing against Salisbury. And I think that was a really important shift for us as a program to start to add really competitive games at the beginning of our schedule to prepare us for what was to come at the end of our season. And so even though junior year didn't necessarily go as planned in terms of, our loss to Salisbury in March, and then also losing in the Sweet 16 for a second year in a row. I think that also lit a fire under us, that at that point we knew we had the potential and we could see the growth that our program was making. And so I think that just kind of allowed us to up our expectations in terms of what we could do.
Now, you also improved a lot during your career. What would you say is the biggest improvement you've made to your game throughout your college career when you look back on it now?
I would say the biggest improvement I made was in my confidence. I started into the lacrosse game very late, and so I think I always had this imposter syndrome about myself in terms of as who I was as a player. And so as I started to gain experience on the field, I think my biggest improvement was in my confidence, and I think that showed in the way that I played. We played a high pressure zone for our defense at William Smith. And so a key factor in playing a zone is communication. And I learned very quickly that if I wasn't talking, I was doing something wrong. And so having the confidence to direct my teammates, to, you know, communicate with our goaltenders or with players up the field, to have the confidence to clear the ball and have the ball in my stick was really critical to my development as a player.
Now, during your junior year, your team won another Liberty League championship, but then got upset by Colby College in the Sweet 16 in the D3 NCAA tournament. Overall, what'd you take away from your junior year that you think helped lead for the big successful season I would say that your team had during your senior year?
Yeah, I think that was probably one of the turning points I can identify in our my experience with the William Smith Lacrosse program. To lose in a Sweet 16 for the second year in a row really lit a fire under us heading into my senior year. We knew at that point that we had the skill and the talent, and it was just about making small adjustments to get us to the next step. Um, but again, I think something that's driven our program my entire experience at William Smith was the leadership and the culture that we had on our team, and the buy-in that all of our players and our coaching staff had to our common goal of getting to a Final Four and one day winning a national championship for our program. We were just all on the same page at that point.
Now, as a senior, what type of leadership did you want to bring? Would you consider yourself more of a vocal leader or lead by example type of player?
I was really lucky to be a part of a senior class that was really strong and had a lot of different leadership styles. There was four seniors and then a fifth year player that made kind of our leadership group. And I think each of us brought a different sort of leadership to the leadership piece to our puzzle. And for myself, I think that on the field, I would consider myself a vocal leader. I mentioned that my confidence certainly increased as I gained experience on the field, and I had no problem directing a teammate when it was necessary. But I think off the field, I would definitely consider myself more of a lead by example type of person. And I also feel that leadership is driven by trust and the relationships that you build with um, your team and teammates. And so I really tried to make it clear that um, I cared about all of my teammates. I cared about their lives outside of lacrosse. I cared about how they felt every day on the field. And I think that's kind of how I chose to be a leader.
Now, during your senior year, your team only lost one game. So how did you guys maintain so much consistency last season? And how did your team handle the pressure of being so highly ranked at that time, having a target on your team's back no matter which team that you guys faced last year?
Yeah, last year was a really special experience. I would say that something that I felt shifted between my previous years at William Smith and my senior year was that every game that we went into, we focused on what we were going to do. And I would say in prior years, there had been more of a focus on adjusting to what other teams were doing. And heading into our senior year, we had a great addition of a new assistant coach who had incredible experience and knowledge to share with us, especially as defenders. And so we had a lot of fun coming up with new defensive systems and really focusing on how we were going to direct the play. And I can point to one experience in particular. We played Salisbury for a second time last March. We actually got to play at US Lacrosse headquarters, which was really cool. And we went into the half being down. I think it was by 2 or 3 goals. And we had worked our way up from a 5 goal deficit against Salisbury. And I mentioned that for my previous few years, we played a high pressure zone defense, and we were very well known for that. And we shifted to a man-to-man defense in the middle of the Salisbury game after talking to our assistant coach. And the way she posed it to us was, we're doing this for us because clearly the zone's not working for us today. And so she posed it as, let's have some fun. Let's mess with them a little bit, switch our system up. And it immediately shifted the momentum and our outlook on the game, getting to kind of use different tools in our toolbox. And I think that was kind of our mindset for the season was we're going to show up every day as William Smith Lacrosse, and good luck to the other side of the field.
Now, you got your third Liberty League championship last season and went on a run to the Final Four in the NCAA Women's Lacrosse Tournament, before losing to Gettysburg in the semifinals, Final Four. So, since that loss to Gettysburg, how have you reflected on that season and your overall time with William and Smith?
Yeah, I mean, I think about our season last year all the time, especially with them getting ready to start their season at the end of January. I'm so grateful for my time at William Smith, and especially having come off a Final Four appearance last spring. I'm really excited to see what they can do this year. I think something that I took away from last year in particular was just the support of the William Smith lacrosse community. I remember towards the beginning of our season, our assistant coach started a letter exchange program where former William Smith Lacrosse alums would write to whoever's wearing their jersey number currently. And I think that was kind of a moment where I got to reflect and understand kind of the growth of the program at that point. They'd write in and say how much they enjoy watching us and the success that we were having. And so that definitely carried me through the season. And then just at the end of the season, as we went on to our tournament run, the support of Hobart and William Smith colleges in general was really incredible. Our Elite Eight game fell on our graduation day. And so Hobart and William Smith colleges let all of us seniors walk at graduation first. And then we went on to host the Elite Eight game, win our Elite Eight game against Tufts at home. And so it was just a really special experience.
So we're now in a segment I like to call five questions that have nothing to do with sports, and the goal of this segment is to hopefully get to know you a little bit more off the field. So the first one is, if there was a movie made about your life, who would you want to play yourself?
Oh gosh. I think I would have to say Amanda Seyfried. I think she has like a really bubbly personality, and I love some of the movies that she's in. I mean, Mamma Mia is a classic, and I love Dear John and um, Mean Girls, obviously. So probably Amanda Seyfried.
I only know her from Ted, so I don't know if that says more about me than her, but yeah, she seems like a good actress though, for sure. What is the most underrated holiday and what's the most overrated holiday?
Let's see. I think I would say the most underrated holiday is birthdays. I don't know if everyone considers those holidays, but I know a lot of people who don't like their birthdays, and I think that is ridiculous. I think the people in their lives have to step up and make them feel more special on those days. But I would definitely say underrated holidays, birthdays. Overrated holiday, I would say Halloween. I think it kind of lost the magic once I couldn't trick or treat anymore. So
Yeah, I sort of equivalent to it. Like, imagine you can't eat turkey on Thanksgiving after you turn like 15. Like, it's just not the same anymore. So,
exactly.
now, what's the most interesting thing you've read or seen this week?
Well, I just finished up my last final for my semester yesterday. And one of my finals included reading an article about how healthcare professionals deem patients in healthcare settings as either motivated or unmotivated, and how that can kind of affect their recovery and prognosis. So I thought it was interesting to kind of understand the impact as a aspiring healthcare professional, the impact that my language and behavior can have on a patient's outlook.
Yeah, that's very interesting for sure. What do you do with the patient that seems unmotivated to recover, I guess?
I think there's a lot of things, a lot of interventions, a lot of strategies you can use. Obviously, encouragement, support from family, friends, therapy teams, and healthcare professionals is important. And also just finding out what's meaningful to them and what goals are relevant to their interests, so that they might be more involved in their recovery process.
So next question is, what music do you like to listen to?
Oh my gosh. I'm a huge Taylor Swift fan, so definitely some Taylor Swift. And I'd also say country.
Nice, nice. I like country too. It's starting to grow on me, even though I feel like it wasn't as popular as it is now when I was growing up, but
Mhm.
now it's starting to get into it. I definitely enjoy it a lot for sure. And then Taylor Swift's good as well, but it stinks that she's a Chiefs fan though. I won't lie.
I'll say though, she's gotten me into football, so there's that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was sort of weird seeing her at Gillette Stadium wearing Chief stuff though, I won't lie.
Yeah.
Now, last non-lacrosse question is, what is one place on your bucket list that you would love to visit one day?
I'd probably say Italy. My sister had the opportunity to study abroad in Italy. She was staying in Florence, and I didn't get to go visit her while she was there because of sports obligations. So I'd love to get there one day.
Nice. Back to some lacrosse questions now. What should be done to help grow women's lacrosse?
I would say, as a former player and for other former players, just supporting the program where you got to play is really critical to continuing to grow the sport and to give opportunities to current and future players. I'm heading back up to William Smith in February for alumni weekend, which I'm really excited about. But yeah, I'd say supporting your former programs and just encouraging people to watch. Women's lacrosse.
Now, before we let you go, Liza, do you have any shout outs you want to give to any of your former teammates, current friends, family members, and who should we have on the podcast next?
Oh, of course. I mean, I'd give a shout out to all of my former teammates, my coaches, Coach Phillips and Coach Lindsay Magro. I would give a huge shout out to my roommate, friend, and teammate Ellen Arena because she really got me into lacrosse in the first place and led me to William Smith. She'd be a great person to have on the podcast. She actually coached at Amherst College for 2 years too, so she's got that lens going for her. Um, and then I'd also say that Maddie Montgomery, who's a former teammate of mine from my class, is certainly a player to watch for this upcoming season. She recently announced that she'll play for University of Denver following this tournament run with William Smith. So I think she'd be an awesome person to join you as well.
Awesome, awesome. I'll definitely reach out and see what happens. But Liza, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. I think you're a great player and person as well, and I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you so much.